I mean, so I have a little bit before I have to go get ready for work. But I'm going to try to talk about a subject um, that is on my mind because there is a presidential election coming up. And it is taking up a lot of my brain space. So I don't know that talking about it will help that. I think it will stay on my mind regardless until the election is over. But one of the reasons why I want to talk about it is because there is a part of me that says I don't even need to worry about this. There's no reason for me to even be concerned with this because it doesn't matter either way. But just hearing myself say that, I think, yeah, no, that's not true. You know, uh, but it is. I still can't help but see it in some sense as a gamble, one way or the other. That it is almost in a sense like going to a boxing match and betting on one opponent or the other. Now you might say, well, one opponent is obviously better than the other one, right? They have a better track record, they have a better build. One has a longer reach than the other one. You know, so you can say, yeah, I can make money off of that, right? I can benefit from this fight some way somehow, right? If I put money on this guy, I know he looks good. I can benefit from that, and you can. But it is still a gamble, right? It is still, you know, the the world is full of examples of the underdog winning, right? The world is full of the David and Goliath examples. I just watched a video this morning of some guy who was like 60 or 70 years old. He's like old hunched over man in the boxing ring with a young guy in his 20s or 30s and beat the shit out of the younger guy, right? Which, people watching that didn't expect that. So, you know, there are no guarantees, and I think this is one of the reasons why there's that other side of my brain that says it doesn't do you any good to worry about it. Right? There's no point in worrying about it because you can't control it one way or the other. You have no control over it, right? It's not entirely true, though, is it? Right? You do have some control over it, right? Because when you vote, it's not the same as betting money because when you vote, you're helping to determine which boxer wins the match, right? So betting on a boxing match maybe isn't the best analogy because when you're betting, you're not actually influencing the fight. Maybe if you were cheering for the boxer, that would be a better analogy. So, does it help to cheer for a boxer? I mean, if you go to a boxing match and let's say you bet money on one guy, you know, do you have some control over that fight? Do you have some way to influence it one way or another? Maybe you do. I don't. One of the reasons why I'm making this is because I've never voted in an election. One of the reasons why I've never voted is because the way I saw it was it didn't make a difference. Uh, that my problems in life were pretty much the same, regardless of who was. I'm pointing at like this time span. Like here's my life, right? As I'm going along, this is what I was doing. I don't know if you noticed that, but you know, regardless of what time period of my life I was in, my problems were the same problems, right? That when I look back at my life, I don't see any discernible difference between when Obama was president versus when Bush was president versus when Clinton was president. I don't really remember any substantial difference other than kind of the overall seeing how other people felt about the country and even maybe even how I felt about the country itself, right? Whether the country was going in a good direction or whatnot. Like, I didn't like George W. Bush being president. When George W. Bush was elected president, I remember just thinking, oh my God, you know, this is a disaster. This guy is a total moron. He's a this kind of this Texas cowboy clown, right? Is he from Texas? I'm not sure. Uh, and then of course he was president when September 11th happened, and the way he responded to that just kind of confirmed my initial hunch, right? This guy's just a Yahoo cowboy. I'm gonna go get him, you know. So of course when Obama became a candidate, when he started running for office, I was like, he's kind of the contrast, right? He is the black to Bush is white, if I can say that without getting in trouble. But when I look back at those times and I think about how my life was, I don't actually see any difference, right? I felt better about Obama being president than I felt about Bush being president, but I don't actually remember any difference in my life at those times. I'm not the kind of person who, I'm not a financial, I can't think of a word for this, but someone who is really strict on something. Someone who is very frugal might be the word, but what I'm thinking of is someone who like pays attention to how much everything costs when they go out to shop. For me, when I go to the store to buy things, typically I don't even know how much I'm spending when I'm standing at the cash out line. So this is probably one of the reasons why I'm poor and living in a bus. But when I look back at those times, like I don't remember the price of gas being higher when so and so was president versus somebody else, because I wasn't even paying attention to the price of gas. I don't think I noticed it, prices anyways, until maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I went to the grocery store to buy food and spent $20 and came out with enough for just like one meal. And I thought, that's pretty ridiculous, right? That's pretty bad. But of course, I only noticed it because of how bad it was. It was so, that for me was so extreme that I thought that's pretty crazy. I think I take that back because I did notice it in places like McDonald's, places where, like, if I was buying the same thing, right? Like if I go buy a quarter pounder meal, and it's $5 one day, and then a few years later I go and it's $7. I notice that, right? Typically, but yeah, the point that I was going for there was that I don't. The difference in my own life from one president to another, I would say, is negligible. But now I'm looking at this election, Trump versus Harris, 2024, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not sure that I believe it's negligible anymore. I do feel like maybe there is some. This may be the first year that I vote. And if I don't vote, though, part of that will be because, let's just say Trump becomes president, and for 4 years we have a good economy, right? And my life is better. He's only going to be there for 4 years. And who comes after that, right? He can't run again. in 2028. So who's going to follow him? One of the reasons why I'm even thinking about voting is because Trump is running. If he were not running, I probably would just again sit out this election. But the other part of me, I shouldn't even call it another part of me, the other kind of angle that I'm taking from this is that maybe voting isn't even the way to influence the fight, right? Maybe instead of just sitting in the audience and cheering for the boxer, maybe I could become a coach, right? Of course, it probably wouldn't be good for a coach to bet on a boxing match, but the point is, if you want a certain outcome, there are other ways to achieve the outcome you want aside from just voting on the election. Of course, I'm kind of like, I don't even what is the outcome that I want? I think voting in an election is in some ways really what you're doing is asking someone else to solve your problems, right? They're basically saying, I just want to be left alone to live my life the way that I want to live my life. I realize there are problems out there, and I'm basically just picking someone else to deal with that, right? And because this is no matter really who the party is or the candidate is, this is their campaign message. I am the one to solve your problems. You have problems. I'm here to fix them, right? And so, if your response is, all right, well, I'll vote for you and I'll go on living my life the way that I want to live my life. If I want to sit around and watch TV all day and bet on boxing matches, that's what I'm going to do. If I vote for somebody and I don't like the results, well, maybe it'll be better again. Maybe the next election I'll get better results, right? I don't know. So this is where I'm at now, right? Where I see the dangers of voting. I mean, because this is the coming to the end of the Biden term, and I thought that Biden even got into office is a sign that voting is a potential game changer, right? Like the last few years of my life have been among the hardest because of the inflation. Prices on things are so high, right? I can't put it all on that because I currently work at a job where I probably would not have worked years ago. So I had a job making a decent amount of money up until about 2022. Then I was unemployed for like 6 months, and I got a job at a Dollar Tree, right? So it's not just the prices, but uh, am I at the end of my thought there? This is kind of where I'm at now. Is in what way, if I want to influence my own life, you know, I can, like I said, I can vote and say, well, Trump will fix all the problems. He'll get it all done. I like Trump. I think he's a good candidate. I think he can make a difference. But I also think that if I sit around waiting for someone else to solve my problems, then I'm going to be waiting until I die, right? If I were to vote this year, it would be more to prevent Kamala Harris from becoming president than to make sure that Trump becomes president. Because I do think that Trump would do a better job than Harris. But I also think that having Biden in office was a disaster, and that Harris would not be that much better. She is more cogent. She is more aware of her surroundings and more articulate and these sorts of things, but she's not running the show. She's not. She's not. She's not a president. She's a puppet. She's a prop, right? She's being propped. I mean, so I really don't want another 4 years of that. What Biden has done. It also, at the same time, I think, you know, it would be good for Americans to feel good about America, right? I think this is one of the reasons, you know, when Trump says make America great again, for me, it's more make Americans feel good about America again. Like, you know, I think I saw a study about declining birth rates, that Americans are having fewer children, especially among, I believe it's millennials and younger, right? They're not having as many children as the generations before them. And supposedly, this is because they have a more pessimistic view of the future, right? Which is to say that they don't really feel good about. I'm not going to say it's not necessarily an unpatriotic view of America, but it's a view of America that is basically like, this country's, you know, it's like a car without a driver. I don't know where this car is going. This car might wreck at any, you know, any day now. Whereas, say, for my father's generation, my parents' generation, they might have they had a little bit of that, but I also get the impression from them that the sky was the limit for them, especially for my father. That he saw America as like this place where you do what, you know. If you want to become CEO of your own company, you become CEO of your own company. And he is, you know, he owns his own business, and he's making a lot of money, right? And he does, you know, he sees America as like the best place you could be, you know. I think millennials and younger, maybe they have a good opinion of America, but maybe they think, yeah, you know what, I think maybe Sweden is better. Places where they have free health care, you know. My friend who lives in France is constantly telling me about the free health care that he gets. Of course, I get health care for free too because I'm a veteran. But so I'm not saying that I'm envious, but I can see someone saying, you know, I'm not interested in being CEO of a company. I just want to sit around playing video games and get my socialist paycheck. I don't. This is the impression that I get from younger people. So, I do have to start getting ready for work. So let's see. But yeah, kind of where my head is at right now is, what do I want to do? how much influence do I want to have, which is, you might say, how much control over my own life do I want, right? I think in the grand scheme of things, there really is no control, right? There are things you can't control. You can't control time. Like I can't make time stop so that I can live forever or whatever. Things like that. It's raining outside right now, right? I can't stop the rain. Of course, these things might be obvious, but I'm trying to make the point that I feel like there's somewhere is a nice little balance where I can say I have enough control over my life that I can not worry about an election, right? Or maybe voting is what I need to do, just because that I determine that's the best thing for me to do. Because I would say that if there's one grievance that I have about my own life right now, it's this feeling that I'm not really in charge of my own life. And like I said, to some degree I can't control my life, but to some degree I can. You know, I'm 48 years old, living in a bus on my father's commercial property. And when I think about that, I think, what is that a sign of? I think it's a sign that I just never took control of my life. That I basically, to some degree, was just a victim of circumstance, right? That I never, if my life is a car, that I was never really behind the driver's seat. That almost like I had my foot on the gas, maybe, but I wasn't really steering. I didn't know where I was going, and these sorts of things. And so this, in a way, is a kind of midlife crisis video, right? It's not really a political video, but the politics are spawning this, or spurring this line of thinking, which was something that I've already been thinking for the last few years. So I don't have a solution. I only have a question at the moment. So that is my question. That is my line of questioning. This is where I'm getting off.